it's amazing. All through YouTube, I wasn't advertising until, you know, I started to get a bit bigger, for example. But when I first started, it was YouTube that did it for me. And you can, whatever business you've got, you can use YouTube as your free organic. You don't have to pay for ads. You can have a free organic search through YouTube by using keywords. Like I used a keyword, for example, and that got plenty of visitors calling me, for example, on the phone. I would probably get about 6 to 10 calls a day when I first started. And there were times where literally I had to say, I'm sorry, I can't take on anymore. There's going to have to be a waiting list. So I had to create a waiting list. And people were saying, look, I will wait until you're ready. And I was like, oh, okay. I said, it might be 3 months, might be 6 months. I will wait. Let me know when you're ready. And that's what I did. That's where my journey began. And even to this day, I know that if I do YouTube videos, you see, what happened as well, and I'll just explain this, because when I started taking staff on, that, you know, each staff member was placed to do different areas, for example, but the best for advertisement, for getting real serious buyers, was YouTube. Not Facebook, not LinkedIn for me. It was Facebook. Sorry, it was YouTube. So how cool is that? I didn't have to pay for adverts, even though I was in the end paying for adverts because I wanted to grow and grow and grow, for example. But this that I'm talking to you through is the best route for getting in front of your audience. Because when you're on Google, because YouTube and Google, they're friends. They own each other. You know, they're part of each other. So guess what? You're going to come up as a video. Or another thing which I did was, it's called Blogger. So you can see on YouTube here, there might be, you know, when you do a video, there might be share. Yeah, you click share and then all these things come up, don't they? There's Blogger, there's Facebook, there's Tumblr, there's all the other ones, for example. So when I click share, I shared on Blogger, because Blogger also is owned by Google, for example. So for some reason, I was just sticking with Google and YouTube and not paying for it. And this is my journey that I'm talking to you about. So when I did my live events, for example, and there could be like 100 people would show up, for example. Some days it could be 50. It depends what time of the year it really is, because it's more busier than others, for example, at certain times of the year. Like if you was to do it July, the end of July or August, you know, it's a bit quieter, but it's still fine to do that. So whenever I used to have an event, for example, I would make possibly just in one day, by selling the boot camp alone, for example, back then I would make like 6,000-7,000 in a day just by selling boot camp stuff. And that is the best type of business to have, because 90% of the business that I do is boot camp. I have 5% of another type of business, and then another 5% of another type, like one-to-one coaching, for example. But the best is the one where it is like a program, and you can just do your teaching through it and showing people how to do it and guiding them through it. And then you then show up for 5 days. Like I used to do it for 5 days, for example, from 9 to 5, every 3 months, for example, and then I would have about 30 students. So you might as well say 10 a month. And back then my prices started at £499, then it went up to £1,499, and then it went to £2,999 per person, for example. And sometimes I'd have different, like a director would be multiple directors, so I would charge per seat. Because just because you're in the same company doesn't mean to say you just pay the one price, because it's the seat and it's the time and the mental energy that it takes to teach people. So that is my way that I built my coaching business. And then when 2018 came up, and I thought to myself, I'm traveling all across the UK. Every weekend I was driving, from Friday morning, for example, and then I'd be doing my event Friday evening. I'll be setting up the room, and then I'll do my event Saturday, the free event, that is, Saturday and Sunday, for example. Or some days I would just do it for one day. But it was very draining, it was very exhausting, because when you do an event, your focus is just so much 100% with whom you're with, and you've got lots of students or potential clients, for example, that want to ask questions as well as you're doing your presentation, for example. So you have to be mindful and be present. Okay, so that's one of the things. So I was doing that every weekend, and my team had to come with me as well, because I wanted them to learn. I wanted them to help with registration and with payments and inquiries and the handouts and things like that. So I then had to pay for the hotel, hiring the hotel room. Some days it would be 1,000, some days it would be 5,000, depending on the time of the year and how big the room was, for example. So when I did the live trainings, for example, that would be for the 5 days, it would cost me 1,500 for the week, for example, for the 5 days. So imagine you're doing that on a regular basis, because it then started to be monthly. So then I'm bringing my team with me. So we're leaving the office. No one's going in the office on a Friday. We've got the phones with us, but we're trying to drive and get to the hotel, and then we're trying to set up in the hotel. And something in my mind, and everyone was feeling exhausted on Sunday, and then they had to come in on Monday, and everyone was still tired from the weekend. So I'd give them each some times off during the week, for example, because we needed everyone to come in on Monday to, deal with all the paperwork, etc., and the orders and things like that. So what I decided to do is, God spoke to me and said, go online. You must be able to do this online. And I was like, how can I do this online? I don't know how this could happen online. So I then started doing my events online, my coaching business online, literally. So I would do my web classes, I used to call them web classes, online, and I would sell my boot camps online, and it was a great success, and that's when it really took off, for example. But I'm glad I made that decision to go online, because when COVID hit in 2019, I would have it would have messed me up totally, for example, because you couldn't go to events. You know, all events were stopped. But I still was able to do events online. So I actually got more busier for boot camps because people were at home and they wanted to learn things. And that's how my online coaching business started. I then started to do one-to-one coaching from there, because I did have a few one-to-one coaching clients, don't get me wrong, but not many. So then I was like, right, okay, I'm going to do one-to-one coaching. Then I was also saying, right, okay, I'm going to do group coaching. Then I was like, I'm going to do business support, which is a higher price ticket, for example. And when I say business support, I mean people work with you whilst you help them to set up their business, but they work with you on it. It's meant to be business support. And that's really how the journey really began. And it was all online. And I was able to offer a smaller price because it was online, not, you know, face to face, because then it would have to be more money. Now, the reason why I'm saying this to you is that you can do a coaching business online. You don't have to have an office. You don't have to do it face to face, because all of these things cost money. You know, I had an office and I had like 3 floors, and it cost me thousands a month. Like, when I say thousands, probably about 10,000 a month to have like 3 floors. It was just ridiculous. And then the money that you pay out on wages, that was high as well. So people think because someone's making 7 figures that they're loaded. Well, actually they're not, because a lot of it is going out on wages, because you're reinvesting in the business. You're not using that money to have a lavish lifestyle. You're using that money to pay your staff members. So you got your staff members that your minimum payment that you're paying is 20,000 a year, for example, and the highest can be 50,000 a year, depending on their position. If they're a manager, for example, or a project manager, there's a lot of money that goes out